Okay, today we're going to pick up where we left off yesterday in art, practicing using pages in art. And I'm already connected to the server. We did that yesterday. We went up to the Go menu and connected. And I'm going to go to my art folder and I'm going to find my practice page that I started yesterday. And what I want you to do today is basically practice the things that we did yesterday. I want you all to add another text box, putting your name and your class hour. I want you to put another square, circle, and triangle underneath and practice filling them with color, a gradient, and an advanced gradient again. So to do that, we're going to start by adding a new text box. We're going to highlight the text that's in there and type in our name again. Remember, it's a proper name, so we're going to capitalize. Putting in our class hour, and then remember to move it, I click away, I can click back on it and I can move it into the location I want. Remember to edit the text, I have to highlight it. In order to highlight it, I click after the last thing I've typed one time, and then I have the cursor, then I can drag backwards and over to highlight, and now I can actually edit the text. I want to make it size 24 this time. Last time we made it 18. We're going to make it a little bigger. I want you to pick a font style that you like. And that is readable. That wouldn't be one that was readable. And then I want you to change the font color. And remember, at this point we moved over to our graphic inspector, which is this blue eye. Mine happens to be open, but if yours is closed, you're going to go up there to the blue inspector. Remember, we're going to use this a lot. And now we're working with text, so I'm going to click on the black T again. I'm going to change the color then at that window. So now we've basically redone a text box. We're practicing that. We need to get very familiar with adding text, changing the font, changing the color. Now the next thing I'm going to do is add the three shapes. So I'm going to go up to my shapes tool. I'm going to add a square. I'm going to go ahead and add all the shapes and then I'll work with them. I'm going to add a circle and I'm going to add a triangle. So I have my three shapes again. I'll make them just a little bit bigger than they were, not a lot because I need this empty space for another part of the exercise. Now I need to begin filling them. I want one of them filled with a solid color. Well, I think I'll just work from my left to my right again. So my square, I'm going to make it the solid color again. But remember, this was working with text. I need to slide over one and work with the graphic inspector. I'm going to go to the color fill again, and this, it says it's green. I want to change that green, so I click on the green that it is, and I pick the color that I want it to be. I'm going to move on to the circle. I'm going to make this one the two colors, the gradient fill, so I'm going to go and choose gradient fill. I'm going to pick on the two colors that it is, and I'm going to change those to two colors of my choice. And then remember, we can play with the angle a little bit if we want. And then I'm going to click on my triangle, and I'm going to make it the advanced gradient fill. And remember, I have two colors. I want four, so I'm going to add two more colors on there by clicking on that line at the bottom, and it adds two more colors, and then I need to go in and edit those colors. So I have four colors of my choice. And remember, again, I can work with that angle if I want it to angle. I can change the thickness of any one of the colors if I want, if I don't see enough of one color that I like. Okay, so I think I like it. So now basically we have practiced again the same thing that we learned yesterday, but I think sometimes repetitiveness helps us to learn a skill. The next thing that we want to do is talk a little bit more about the advanced gradient. There's a couple things in there. So I want you to click on that triangle that we did first, that first day in art. And notice that down here, right now, this little button is kind of grayed. This is a linear gradient. Right next to it is a radial gradient. Click on the radial gradient and notice what happens to your colors. Again, it just fills it radially instead of linearly. That's going to be up to you how you want to fill those, okay? But I'm going to leave it up to you. You can pick either linear or radial. Depends on the shape maybe, how they're filling, but pick the one you want and make that choice. Then the same thing, you can go down to the bottom shape and fill it if you want as well. So once you've decided what shape and what, if you want linear or radial gradient fill in your shapes, then we're good to go. We're going to go on to the next part of the gradient inspector. I want you to click on the square that you drew first. That was the very first thing, that shape we put on our paper. And then I want you to look under stroke and notice what appears under the stroke. We have three choices here. It already has a black line around it, but notice that we can change that line to be a little bit more decorative if we want. So when I do that, notice what happens to the line around my square. So I've changed that line. In the next box, I'm going to change the color of that line. So right next to it, I have the option of changing the color of that line. And in the very next box where it says 6 pt, that's the width of the line. If I want to increase that width, I would hit the little arrow on the top and notice how it gets thicker. If I want to decrease it, I would click on the arrow on the bottom. It's okay to put a thicker line around the shape, but you do not want to distort the shape of the image. So keep in mind that don't make it so thick that we lose sight of what the actual shape is. It still should be evident to us that we have a square on our paper. What I would like you to do now is to go down and put a different line on the three shapes that we drew today. So on my blue square, I'm going to go down and change my line, change my color, change the thickness so that it's evident that I even have one. So I did the dots. So again, on all three of your shapes, change the line, change the color, and change the thickness to narrower or thicker somehow, so we know that you've worked with those images. Okay? Then, once you've accomplished that task, the next thing that I want you to do is to go up and add two more shapes at the bottom of your paper. I would like you to pick a diamond, and I would like you to add a star. And we are going to put a picture in each one of these shapes that we find from the internet. So go ahead and make them as big as they can be to fit on the bottom of the page that you have left. Then in order to save what we've done so far, I want you to go to File, Save a Version. You're going to go ahead and minimize. Notice when I say minimize, I don't mean close. That's the red button. It's the little yellow button in the top left-hand corner. That's going to minimize what we're working on now. And then I would like you to go ahead and close all the windows that are open, that remain open on your desktop. So I'm going to close all those buttons. And then I'm going to go down to my dock and I'm going to open up Safari. And I need a little bit of my desktop visible. I don't have to have much. This is enough. So if your screen is full desktop, you're going to want to slide it over just a little bit so you have some desktop available to see what you're doing over here. Then we're going to go up here where it says Images. I'm going to click on Images, and then I'm going to type in Bulldog. And I'm going to look for pictures of bulldogs. To save time, we're going to work with the very first image. But in order to get the best picture that we can get, you always want to click on the thumbnail that comes up in all the pictures that you find. These are called thumbnails. Go ahead and click on the thumbnail. And then I want to go ahead and click on View Image. And it's going to isolate that bulldog so he's all by himself. And then I'm going to click on that picture and drag it over to my desktop. Sometimes it takes more than one try, but it's just a click with your mouse, a hold down, and drag over. And that time it didn't work, so I'm going to try again. There it went. I should end up with a little picture of a bulldog over here that I'm going to later use in my pages. Now, you can either hit the back button in Safari back to that Google search page, or you can hit the little home button if you have one on the top of your Safari window. So I'm going to go ahead and hit home. It takes me back to my Google search. I want to click for one more picture. I want you to search for a cardinal. It's the Illinois state bird. Hit return. And then you're going to get lots of pictures of cardinals. Find one that you like. Go ahead and click on it. Remember to go to View Image. And then I'm going to drag it over to my desktop as well. I have two pictures, one of a bulldog and one of a cardinal. I'm done with Safari, so I'm going to click back on Safari, go to Safari, close the application. I'm going to quit. Now I want to put these two pictures in my art folder. So I'm going to double click on my folder that's on my desktop, find my art folder, and I'm going to drag these two pictures into my art folder. Now, I already have that one in there from a previous exercise, but I'm going to replace it. So now I have Clyde the Bulldog and I have that male cardinal that I found on the internet. Then I don't need these out on my desktop anymore, so I'm going to drag them down to the trash can. And then I'm going to go ahead and open up my Pages project that I was working on earlier. Now remember, in order to fill a shape, we had to use our inspector, and we closed all of our windows earlier. So let's open our inspector again. Make sure that we're in the graphic part, and under fill, it's asking us, well, do you want to fill it with a color? No. And we used the gradient before, we used advanced gradient, and underneath advanced gradient, do you see image fill? We're going to click on image fill. Then the computer's going to say, well, where do you want to get that image from? So we're going to go out to the desktop. No, into our art folder. I'm sorry. Yeah, we put it in our art folder. So we're going to go to ODM, to our folder, to our art folder, and there's that picture of Clyde the Bulldog that I want to put in my diamond. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Clyde the Bulldog. It shows me a little thumbnail, and then I'm going to hit open. When I click open, it puts Clyde the Bulldog in my diamond. Now, let's go back over here to our graphic inspector and look at some choices over here. Under image fill, it says scale to fit, scale to fill. Sometimes it makes a little bit difference. Sometimes it might need to be stretched. I'm just going to try them all and see what happens. Original size. Now that's so big that all I can see there is his eyes. So the original size is obviously not going to work. And I don't think tile works in this instance either. So I'm going to go back to scale to fit. I thought that was the best one, that fit there. Now we're going to go back over to our diamond, our star. And we want to put a picture in our star, but this time we're going to put the cardinal in our star. So we're going to go back over to fill, and we're going to choose image fill. Now the computer thinks it's so smart, it uses the last picture that we used, which was the bulldog, but we don't want the bulldog, we want the cardinal. But notice right up here it says choose. Well, I'm going to choose a different picture. So I'm going to hit choose. I'm going to go back to my ODM, to my folder, to my art folder, and there is that male cardinal that I liked. And I'm going to go ahead and click on him. I see a little thumbnail, and I'm going to go ahead and hit open. Now notice that I have some white spaces this time, so the scale to fit may not be the best choice. I'm going to try scale to fill. Oh yeah, I like that a little bit better. So I'm going to leave it at that. Now there's one more really interesting thing that you can do with your star, because right now we have a 5-point star. But if I want less points, I could take it down to 4. There's a triangle, but I can also add points to it. And sometimes as I add points, my picture actually gets better. Sometimes it gets worse, but you can decide how many points you want on that star. And that's where we will end our lesson for today. You've done a great job. Don't forget to go to File, Save a Version. That will save what we've done. Don't forget to go to Pages, Quit Pages. If this window would come up, you're going to hit OK. Going to close all your windows. Don't forget to disconnect from the server. Great job.